Welcome to State of Wellbeing, a podcast from South Dakota State University. The State of Wellbeing is a holistic well-being podcast with the goal of supporting the campus community as we strive to be a growing, high-performing, and healthy university.
Welcome to another episode of the State of Wellbeing podcast. My name is Kevin Sackreiter. I am the Executive Director of the Center for Professional Enrichment and Teaching Excellence and a member of the Wellbeing team. I'm really excited to have another of our conversations in our series focusing on the Student Success Network here at South Dakota State University. And today we are joined by the SDSU Graduate School Director Nicole Lounsbery and Assistant Director Kristen Kponyoh. Welcome.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How about you, Kristen?
I'm great.
All right. Excellent. So because we're framing this conversation around the Student Success Network, I think we should really start by allowing you to introduce us to your office, talk about the role your office has in supporting students and supporting students within that network here at South Dakota State, and just what are some specific services you provide to students. Being the graduate school, obviously we're focusing probably on graduate students, but kind of how you impact their experience here at South Dakota State.
Okay, yeah. So I'll start. I think, the graduate school provides a lot of student success support. So we are the people who they see even before they apply. We do admissions processing, and then we go all the way through as they matriculate to degree completion. So what we do is obviously we have outreach. We communicate through social media. We communicate through our newsletter. We want to make sure that they know we're here. We have several events throughout the year that we include graduate students and try to make them feel like part of a community. And then a lot of different competitions and different things like that we really stress. We are an academic office, but we also want to make sure that we foster growth and connection. So if a student comes in and maybe they're referred from, Wintroad or wherever, student opportunity, they come in and we can help them with whatever they need. One of the things I will say that we have done now for how many years? Oh man, we had professional development started, goodness, lots and lots of years ago. And it's a program for students, for graduate students who can improve their professional development. We have 7 competency areas. One of them is wellness, but we have leadership, teaching, career, communication, research, and diversity and advocacy. And they can go through D2L. They go, and it's called the Graduate Professionalism Academy. They go in there and they can learn a bunch of really interesting things about beyond grad school, things that they can do for themselves, also helping them be better in grad school, whether it's student related, teaching related, communication, leadership, all of that. So that's really a service that's free. It's for any grad student, and they can do it on their own time because we always want to include distance students. So that's really a big part of the graduate school. We provide that, we maintain that, and then we award that at the end of the year. We award certificates there's like 4 different levels, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So we really think that is a all-encompassing kind of opportunity for graduate students.
Really a nice holistic growth opportunity for that.
Just academics, it's everything all the soft skills, the things you need to be successful. And also wellness is a huge piece of that too. So I think that's one thing we're really proud of. And then also really proud of all of our, we have a 3-minute thesis competition. We have research scholarship and creative activity day in April. And then we also recognize grad students during Graduate Student Appreciation Week. So we try to do whatever we can as an office, and all of our staff get involved. And we really want to make sure we're here to support success in whatever way we can.
It's a really wide range of comprehensive opportunities.
We think it is. I mean, we don't have a huge staff, so we do whatever we can with, but we're small but mighty. But we really do want to make sure that we don't just address one thing, and obviously I think all our students know that they can come in and see us, and come into the office if they need help with plans of study, if they need help with just advising, we do, even though we're not formal advisors, and just like listen to them and help them with whatever they need.
I think that's a really good, it prompts a really good I think, a really good question on my part. And Kristen, maybe I'll throw that to you. A lot of those programs, people are engaged, they're connected to the graduate school, but maybe go back to the very beginning. What does the initial engagement or interaction a student might have with the graduate school look like? I'm a new student. I've only been here. Maybe I'm just arriving to campus. Like, how do I connect, and what does that connection look like with your office?
Yep. So initially when students are admitted, they'll receive an email providing them all the information to My State orientation. So one of the big things we transitioned to, in part due to COVID, but also I think just based upon our student population, we have a lot of graduate students who we know are not, your typical just come to campus and they're here all day long. A lot have families and jobs, other obligations, maybe are not in Brookings or fully online, could be anywhere in the country or in the world, really. So we do have an online orientation that students can hook up with that provides them all of the information about services, mostly geared towards our graduate students, but we also have information on our campus, so all the resources that they can link to, so the wellness center, counseling services, things like that they maybe aren't always sure that they can utilize as a graduate student. But we do provide all of those resources via D2L, so they can access it anywhere and also at any point. So we don't take them out after their first semester. They stay within the orientation platform and can access that at any point.
A follow-up question real quick to that is, as you were talking about coming with families or different life experiences, I think there's some stark differences between the 18-year-old first-year freshman and the first-time graduate student, or maybe not the first time. Maybe it's their second or third time as a graduate student at a different institution. What are some of the, I guess, maybe the differences or the needs that you recognize in the graduate students that you interact with that may be different from the 18-year-old college freshman coming to college campus for the first time?
Yeah, and sometimes I think that is the perception that they are so vastly different, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are really, truly seeking those same services, and I think a lot of the problem we have with our students, they come and they're not aware that those services are still available to them. They think the Career Center is only available to undergrad students, or that they can only go to the Writing Center if they're an undergrad, when in reality they can utilize the library, the Writing Center, the counseling services, the Wellness Center, and so really getting out in front of those students and saying, yes, you can, in fact, utilize everything. You're paying a general activity fee, and you should use them. Yeah. But you're right. They are vastly different in some capacities.
In some capacities, yeah. Right. But same. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good transition into a conversation maybe about some common frustrations that graduate students might experience, and how does your office help support them in navigating those frustrations?
That's a good question. I mean, I think sometimes they're frustrated just because, again, Kristen mentioned maybe being left out or maybe not understanding their role, because as you know, undergraduates typically, especially the first 2 years, live here. Many of them don't live on campus. They are distance students. They have families, sometimes have full-time jobs. And so I think sometimes we hear they don't feel as connected. And so we do try to make sure that we provide ways for them to connect, although we know they're really busy and they're in the lab and that takes priority. But we do hear that. We also hear just the needs to, have social activities, to have their voice heard, and also just recognizing their situation from their perspective. And I think that she said as well, knowing the resources, even just something like housing. We get a lot of questions about housing, about the community. And that kind of leads me into just talking about it's really important for grad students to know what's in the Brookings community. If they have children, what about schools? What about daycare? What about, where do you get your groceries? Just all those things. Because, it doesn't matter if they're a domestic or international student. If they're new, they're new. They don't know where to, and you can look it up, but sometimes things aren't maybe on the internet or, there's not a lot. So we do have questions just about basic things, like where do I go to get this? How do I find this? And then we also have specific questions about, I don't know really what it means to be a grad student. Mm-hmm. What is a committee? If I have to do a thesis, they kind of know, but then they're like, what's the process? So it's just a lot of questions about, maybe they're a first generation student, or maybe they, have really been never really discussed grad school and what it means and what you're going to expect as a grad student, So they do have a lot of questions about that. Like, how is this going to work? And we do a lot of education about the process. We have all the deadlines up front, easily accessible, but also community resources and everything they need. We kind of try to point them to the places on campus that they need to go, and then also in the community. So,
well, that was going to be my other question on the community resources. You mentioned like housing and
a lot of housing questions.
So who do you refer to graduate students? Not to put you too much on the spot here, but like, what are if a graduate student's listening to this and thinking about that question, where would be a place that you would refer them to for community resources or housing or those kind of things?
Typically the housing department on campus.
Yeah, housing, residential life. They have like lists too.
Yeah, exactly. So even if they don't live on campus, they would be able to help set them up, potentially with some off-campus. International students, a lot of the time, will be the ones who are looking for more residential housing. And so we'll connect them with the International Affairs Office. They've got a great platform. So if somebody's seeking a roommate, they can put it out there that they are too, or they can link up with another international student or domestic student who's looking for a roommate, potentially either on campus or off campus. And that's a great resource, I think, just to even get students talking to each other that maybe won't because they're not in the same discipline.
Well, I think that idea of connecting and building relationships kind of feeds into really the sponsor of our podcast being that well-being team here on campus. And maybe we shift our conversation quickly to well-being. And so to ask from a well-being perspective, maybe with the graduate school, it doesn't quite fit when I ask what types of opportunities to support student well-being exist, but I think you've touched on a number of them. And so I'm just going to ask the question, from a well-being perspective, what types of opportunities does your office offer to support the mental, physical, emotional well-being of the graduate students here at South Dakota State University, or how do you connect them with places that do support that?
Well, I mean, I'm a well-being team member as well, so it is important, and it's important to all of us because we know that students, the whole student is important, right? Not just their academics. And so what we do, and again, I already mentioned our Graduate Professionalism Academy. We also always, support any wellness activity or any workshop or anything that's going on campus to kind of, hey, if you're, having problems sleeping, there's a workshop to talk about it. Or so we always promote the really important activities and programs and things like that are on campus, but also the resources like the wellness center, the counseling, and we always say these are for you, as Kristen mentioned in the beginning, these are for you to access. You are paying for these things. Like, please do take advantage of the fact that we have these services for you. And so I think it's just about another message saying, if they come to the grad school, we'll say, hey, we do have these resources on campus for you. We may not directly provide them, of course, but we can get you to where they need to be. Or if you want to go on to our Graduate Professionalism Academy under Wellness, we do have some really good resources there. This is what's going on campus. But I as part of the well-being team, I make sure that we are always knowing what's going on and help promoting all the activities that everybody's doing, which are great things, and we have months where we have, digital wellness. I don't know if you saw our social media, but I gave up my phone for a long time and it was hard. But we try to be involved in those things, and we try to have open houses and try to support all of the really cool things that are happening on campus to really promote wellness. So I think that's what we do as far as the grad school goes.
No, I love that. And thank you for kind of expanding on that idea and really the connection, I think, too, to the well-being team and the work that they're doing is so important. And I just always refer people to that. So one of the other questions I have isn't necessarily about the graduate student specifically, but it's maybe how can the larger community, whether that's faculty, staff, the Brookings community, what are some ways that they could support the graduate students and the work that you do here at South Dakota State University?
And I was going to mention that actually as well. So perfect segue, Kevin. A lot of the population, specifically that probably Nicole and I work with, are our graduate faculty, because students at the graduate level will work, primarily with their faculty members. They are very interconnected with their advisor, much more so than generally an undergrad student would be. And so we spend a lot of time educating our graduate faculty, answering lots of questions, and they're very appreciative of just getting that information. So we do try to do pretty standard meetings with our what we call grad coordinators who disseminate that information to their larger departmental representatives. And so hopefully getting really some of those big pieces. So making sure students are applying for the awards that we offer. We offer some scholarships, making sure that they're aware that those are happening. Getting involved in like the 3MT and our GERSCAT event, and really just promoting wellness overall. If they have issues with their advisor, or sometimes advisors have issues with their students, how do we mitigate those before they get out of control?
And you mentioned community. I mean, we always invite the community to take part, and through grad faculty, they can attend everything, they can support their students, but also, they can tell others to support our grad students in the community, whether that means that they go to, an activity downtown, or, I think it's just part of like, we are here for you, the community, the campus, our office, it's all interconnected. So I think, when you think about a student, there's so many different facets of their life. They live in the community, they have maybe children in the schools. And so it really is important to try to invite the community to participate. And we try to also participate in community events as well. And I think just kind of connecting our grad students with those resources and those people in the community is good too.
Yep. We always, the Brookings Chamber we've worked with as well, just to promote a lot of their events. They do a lot of really great community-based events, and they've worked with us to do like discounts for graduate students. So if they're participating in maybe one of like the leadership conferences or like the empowerment conferences, they'll give a discount rate for grad students, knowing that, it's not always easy to afford some of those things, and just really provide them some opportunities, or even just fun social events. We try to promote those, again, within the community as well, just to get students out and about.
So you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. So we're nearing the end of our time, and I want to ask one kind of final question, and I'm going to probably put you both on the spot just a little bit, but maybe I'm a graduate student who doesn't get over to the office, doesn't get to see you on a regular basis, and for whatever reason, I'm tuning in today. If you had a chance to tell them, like, here's the one or two like must know things related to your success as a graduate student, your well-being as a graduate student, what would be that kind of closing message, that 15-second elevator speech, like, here's the thing that I want you to know as a graduate student at South Dakota State to support your success, your well-being, and to give you a positive experience in your time here at SDSU? What would that be?
I mean, it's hard to sum up in 15 seconds. I mean, I always tell students, I've been here a long time, and I always tell students that I understand it's important to, let's say, be in the lab, and I understand that it's important to, really focus on your academics, but you also have to do other things. And one of those other things I tell them is to get involved, whether it be through an organization, get involved professionally, network, right? What do they say? Your network is your net worth, And I tell students that, like, yes, academics and getting you good grades, let's say, is important, but it's the other things that you do, establishing connections, establishing people who will, with professors, so they'll give you good references, but also doing things that are fun. Have some fun, it is important. It is serious, but, you have to take breaks. And I know you don't want to be chained to the bench, but sometimes they feel like it. And I don't care what grad student comes into contact with me. I say sometimes you just have to have some fun and take care of yourself and put it aside for a minute, because these things are important. But if you are not well, you cannot do well, and so I guess that would be my little 15-second speech. Yes, network, get involved, do the things that are outside of maybe your courses and your research, but also have fun and take care of yourself.
I love that. If you're not well, you can't do well. Like, that really resonates. I like that.
Simple, but
right. So Kristen, we heard from the director. What does the assistant director have as her takeaway?
I feel like we provide a lot of information to our graduate students, but we understand that they're busy. They're not going to sift through everything. So ultimately, just as somebody who works with them very closely, I would say if you have questions you don't understand, you need help with anything, ask early. Yeah. Don't wait, because typically we see that if you wait, problems escalate far quicker. And a lot of the time, a lot of the stuff can just be solved with a quick question, clarifier. You can do this. We'll problem solve your way through.
Yes.
So what are my options for asking? You said just ask. Share those with me quick.
Like Nicole mentioned, we don't have a huge office, but we're all pretty well versed in helping students out, even our admissions staff. And so you can either contact our office via phone, email, through social media. I've answered messages through our social media platforms. Stopping into our office, we're located in Morrill Hall 130. It's right next to the cashier's office, is what we always tell students.
Yep, easy access.
So any of those channels or mechanisms, if you see us out and about, we've had students stop us at things. We're more than happy to answer questions and events.
And I will just put the plug in. If you're not following the graduate school on social media, you're missing out on some quality content, right? Well, I want to thank the both of you, Nicole and Kristen, for joining us today as part of this podcast series focused on the Student Success Network. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode and all of the episodes of the State of Wellbeing podcast. And really, I'm just going to wrap up by echoing what Nicole said, that if you're not well, it's hard to do well. And take care of yourself. Prioritize your own well-being, and wish you nothing but the best as you navigate the rest of the semester here at South Dakota State University.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of State of Wellbeing, a podcast from South Dakota State University. This podcast is brought to you by the Mental Wellbeing Team and SD State Health.